Hello, a very good afternoon. Welcome to the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. And coming up in the next 2 hours, Supreme Court set to reopen hearing into the voters register dispute between the Electoral Commission and the former PNC youth organizer Abu Ramadan. Were live at the court as judges give plaintiffs green light to scrutinize the bulky documents presented by the EC yesterday. Police gunned down 2 suspected armed robbers in the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi. We have details of this story and how it all unfolded in the capital. And police administration prepares to deploy specially trained officers to protect party flag bearers and their running mates as the campaigns towards the 2016 elections heat up. We have analysis here on the risk faced by the flag bearers. Details of that story and more in the next 2 hours. My name is Francis Abban. It's a packed show just for you. Sit down, relax, and let's get started. And as always, your views and comments are welcome on this program. Look for us on social media, on Facebook at Joy News, on Twitter at Joy News on TV. Drop your comments. We will be glad to share your thoughts with the rest of the world. Well, today there's been a memorial service to mark the 34th anniversary of the Martyrs' Day in remembrance of the 3 High Court judges who were murdered some 34 years ago. The Chief Justice, Georgina Wood, as well as some son of Justice Sarkodie, one of the murdered judges, laid wreaths to mark the event. Veteran member of the Bar Association, Samoku Jeto, and lawyer Bright Akwete, who were at the event, shared their views on the significance of the day.
Not appreciate, but it's a day to remind us of our duty and our responsibility to our country and nation. The fact that it is good to stand, to take a stand for justice and for truth, even if you must die for it. Because many of us are so easily compromised. We want to please the powers that be. Some judges want to give judgment on that to please government or with a hope of promotion. Lawyers who will start because they belong to a political party, they will twist the law. Today is a reminder for everybody to say that for you to be remembered, you have to be upright. You have to be honest. You have to understand what the rule of law is and to uphold it. This is the significance of this day. This is why we call them martyrs. The misfortune now is that everybody seems to be a lawyer. So they go on the radio and then they're quoting law and then they're criticizing judges when they have no understanding whatsoever of what the whole principle of law is. Unfortunately, there are many young lawyers who are doing the same thing. They're joining the bandwagon, they're on the radio, they call. And they want cheap publicity by attacking judges. Now, you can disagree with a judge, but then you must know the law first. And then you must explain what is it that you disagree with. But not to be abusive, casting insinuations, innuendos, castigating the character of honest citizens. It is wrong. It is not in the interest of our country and its progress. Because it is those kind of behavior that instigated the people who went and abducted the judges and have them murdered.
It's a very significant day for both the bar and the bench. This is the day we try to remind ourselves that without the rule of law, we cannot govern this country properly. We have to give some measure of regard for the bench. We do not have to take decisions given by the bar to heart and try and dig deep or deeper into it to find fault with them and therefore castigate or punish judges for judgments they gave. This is a day when we're trying to remind Ghanaians that they need to give some respect to the laws of this country. And those who administer the laws need some protection. They also need the protection of the law and the protection of everybody and respect of everybody. So at least together, with all the branches of government, we can advance the cause of this country.
So that's Mr. Bright Akwete, a senior lawyer, and also earlier you heard the former president of the Ghana Bar Association, Samuel Kujetu, and a senior lawyer that's sharing his views. Meanwhile, the Ghana Bar Association has today condemned the criticism of judgments that creates public disaffection for judges in the country. GBA President Benson Nuchukwi, who raised the concern, says such criticisms are targeted at members of the judiciary in a manner that is purely abusive. He was speaking at the Remembrance service in Accra to commemorate the murder of the 3 High Court judges.
As a nation, we have made some strides in promoting the rule of law. We must be reminded that as the world confronts new emerging challenges and that threaten to shake the foundations of our assumptions about global security and world peace, there is always a huge temptation for our state agencies to seek to roll back some of the gains in the name of security. This we must seriously guard against. In recent times, we have witnessed the use of the powers by elements of our security apparatus that cannot be said to be consistent with the demands and ideals of the rule of law. Today, social media has become a convenient platform to mount scurrilous attacks on our judges. While citizens have the right to critique judgments of the court, it is absolutely unacceptable for those criticisms to be rendered in language that is vituperative, sensational, purely abusive, with the primary aim of inciting public disaffection for our judges and undermine the integrity of the judicial system. As we celebrate our departed judges, it is my hope that we will learn from the service and industry of the 3 and rededicate ourselves to the noble ideals of the rule of law which they so gallantly guarded. Finally, as we approach the 2006 presidential and parliamentary elections, I cannot but urge all citizens, public and state institutions to recommit themselves to the ideals of rule of law, thereby ensuring that the up-and-coming elections take place in an orderly, credible, non-violent, and peaceful environment.
Right, so those are the details for you on that story. Clearly, the Ghana Bar Association is unhappy with the way lawyers in recent times have shared their thoughts on judgments given by judges in the courts, especially when it becomes abusive and insults rained on the men who delivered these judgments. He's saying that this practice must stop. Let's see whether this admonition will be heeded to by the lawyers in the coming days or not. Let's quickly go to the Ashanti region, where we're learning that some 2 suspected armed robbers have been gunned down by the police in that region. Let's get more details right now. We can speak to someone on this. We'll get you those details shortly. But it's coming at a time when the region has been in focus for a number of crime-related issues in recent times. You remember that police officer who was shot at a hotel at Ditcham so about a month ago. Also, some residents in some parts of Kumasi also were attacked about 6 weeks ago, if I can recall properly. That was with some armed robbers. Eventually, there was a standoff with them and the Ghana Police Service. Some people were gunned down as a result of that. We'll bring you an update on that story we're learning of right now in the Ashanti region. 2 suspected armed robbers shot by the police. We'll bring you more on that story too. And also to understand the circumstances under which this may have happened. Is it a case of the Ghana Police Service and that region being trigger happy, or it's a case of self-defense. We will get those details for you in just a moment. But while we wait for that, we can now do some politics here on the show. And with less than 5 months to go for the general elections, the campaign is heating up steadily. We're learning this afternoon that the flag bearer of the NPP, Akufo, has taken his campaign trail to Suhum in the eastern region, where he seeks to consolidate his votes with less than 5 months to go for the elections. The party in previous elections has seen a high percentage of votes for the NPP, call it their stronghold in the eastern region, and this presidential candidate is looking to ensure that they don't lose ground in that part of the country. We can speak to Maxwell Kudekor of our sister station, Adom FM. He's been with the NPP flag bearer on that campaign trail and joins me on the line with more on this story. Maxwell, where's Nana been to today and what's been his message?
Well, Francis, we started today's trip at the Suhum constituency. We visited the chief of Suhum, Akufo, and then the NPP flag bearer addressed at the Suhum with a bit of
Maxwell, your line is pretty bad. If you could just quickly reposition so we can hear exactly what you're saying. I can hear you say that he's been to a number of places, but I can't quite understand where exactly he's been. If you've repositioned, let's hear you now, Maxwell.
Is it better now?
Yes, much better. Go ahead.
Well, maybe because of the network around. But what I'm saying is that we met with the Suhum constituency. That's the first point of call. The Suhum constituency. We met with the Suhum chief of Akufo, and then after that, the NPP flag bearer addressed a gathering at the Suhum Park. Later, he went to Chateau and Sabab in Suhum, and then also Nankase, respectively. At the Suhum Chief's Palace, Nanado mentioned that he is committed to ensure that peace prevails, and then even if there will be any violence during this election year, it will not come from his camp. But he hinted that the Electoral Commission must also work in conformity with the laws of the country. However, he is committed for peace. At the Dato community, Nana Akufo promised the people of Dato a processing plant. The Dato community is noted for the production of local whiskey or local liquor. They call it appeal in a local palate or application. That is what they produce more. They produce in commercial quantity. So Akufo promised the community of a processing plant that will help them commercialize their trade and ensure that they have money in their pockets. He hinted that he is committed to ensuring that the promise of providing a factory in every district of this country come to pass and becomes a reality. He also added that the NDC, since the inception of the 1992 elections, has always doubted every positive initiative by the NPP. He cited 2000 election where President Akufo mentioned that he was going to bring the health insurance. He said that then candidate, Professor Mose, told Ghanaians that it cannot be a reality, but true to President Akufo was when he had the not to rule, he brought the health insurance. He also recounted the threat he had and the opposition he had from the NDC when he promised to bring the free SHS and the Nordic Development Program. So he mentioned that it is because of the vision he has. That is why he has been talking about all these achievable promises. However, he said that he is not protected by the opposition he's having from the NDC whenever he promised or, if you like, mentioned that he's going to embark on policy A or B. And then also he touched on the fact that he is not into politics to, if you like, amass wealth for himself and his family, and that he has made all the money he will make in his life. And then when he's given the nod, he would not go around taking bribes and siphoning from the national ticket. So he finally urged the people to give him a chance, because this is the third time he is coming to them for their vote. And that
okay.
when they
Maxwell, briefly, for all the things that Nana Addo has spent time today telling the people of the Suhum constituency in the eastern region, what has been their response to the matters that he's addressing as against what the people in their view need at a time like this?
Well, if you ask me, the message has been received well. It's been received well by the people. We started yesterday, and then yesterday we talked about 5 or 6 constituencies there in Sanwó, Madwaji, Upper West, Lower and Upper West, Achim, Lower West, Achim, Asama, Kesi, Kedi, and all that. But at Asama, Kesi, Kedi, and Akotia constituency, we had a lot of people waiting for the flag bearer. I must say that it rained heavily at Asama, Kesi, Akotia, and Kedi, but you could see that people were still in the rain waiting for Nana Addo to address them. They cheered him anytime he made a commitment to ensure that there is one district in each, one factory in each district. So if you ask me, the message is being received well by the people. We currently at the Grafton North constituency, Grafton North constituency. We are around to heading towards Lache and then other constituencies. Finally, we will crown today's activity with a mini deba in the New Jaben South constituency. That is Koforidua at Addo, to be precise. So if you ask me, the people who has been receiving, or he's been received work by the people so far where we have visited. Okay.
Now, is this tour supposed to happen beyond today, or they will go for a break for the holidays?
I'm told the tour is a 5-day tour. Tomorrow will continue at 2 p.m. Sunday. Tomorrow we'll have to do other constituencies, and then also Saturday and Sunday. I think Sunday will be the crown of it all. So it's a 5-day program from yesterday to Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Maxwell Kudekor. He's with our sister station, Adom FM, giving us details of what the NPP flag bearer has been busy and up to in the eastern region as he continues his campaign tour of that region. We are learning that it's a 5-day tour. Started yesterday, will continue up until Sunday. Even tomorrow, holiday, he will be busy in some parts of the eastern region. That's for the NPP and the flag bearer, Nana Addo Akufo. Well, for the NDC, President John Mahama has also been busy today. He's continues his accounting to the people tour of the Ashanti region. We know he has already commissioned some building projects and schools as well. We can speak to YAW GYIMAH with our sister station Luv FM in Kumasi, who is with the president as he continues his tour. YAW, where's the president been to today and what has he been talking about?
Continuing his accounting to the people tour, he started at the Regional Coordinating Council in Kumasi, where he met some clergymen to interact with them. He asked for them to pray for the government as we go into the political the 2016 general elections. He is expecting them to help maintain peace in the country, and also he wants them to educate their members on what government is doing to alleviate poverty in the country. And from there, we move to the Fomina Adanse, where President called on the chief of Adanse. He is named Opaja Koche Bonsa Efriye, and he at the palace. He also hello.
I can hear you, Nana. Go ahead. All right, it seems we've lost YAW GYIMAH on the line there with our sister station, Luv FM in Kumasi. He's been following the president today as he continues his accounting to the people tour of that region. We'll bring you more on that story. Remember, this is your election headquarters. Everything elections we'll bring to you here on this channel, from the campaigns that are going on to the key developments related to the 2016 elections. You have it here on your election headquarters. You're watching the Pulse on the Joint News channel on Multi TV. And we're still staying in politics because the police administration says it has completed the training of security detail for flag bearers for the country's political parties as the campaign towards the elections gathers momentum. The Chief of Defense Staff, Air Marshal Michael SAMSON-OJE, has had cause to worry this week about the rising tension ahead of the elections.
The president has virtually covered what I need to tell you. And since you are professionals, you've understood that even much more better than me. And he has said it in the right words to you. And that is your role during, before, during, and after the elections. And the end state is peace. But he has spelled it out better. Ours is to support the police and other security agencies to maintain peace and order. To support the police and other security agencies to maintain peace and order. The temperature of the campaign is about getting higher and higher. We are not too comfortable. We are looking at it. The IGP and his men are talking to all stakeholders. We are at the background studying how best we can support or react. I can assure you that, as the President said, and as I did say earlier, during our interaction a few weeks back, that the armed forces is ready and is prepared to do all it takes to keep this country together. I can assure you it will not descend into any chaos. If it does, we shall apply the right antidote.
Now, the concern was further heightened in less than 24 hours when a team accompanying the president on his tour of the Ashanti region came under attack. Some unidentified persons pelted an advanced convoy team with stones. 3 members of the entourage are reportedly injured. Security analyst Dr. Kwesinin says the police will have to tighten security for all flag bearers.
Any attack on the convoy, which is part of the president's fleet, is not acceptable. That's number one. Number two, it leads to a dramatic escalation of the nature of political violence in this season. Number three, what it means is that, if I remember correctly, the Inspector General of Police was thinking of providing security for all political party leaders from the 1st of July. Probably it should be moved forward right now, because I suspect there may be some form of misplaced retaliatory attacks against other political leaders. And I think this is just unacceptable behavior. Now, part of the issue around, violence in our politics is that more often than not, our political leaders don't condemn it. And I'm using violence in a very broad sense, either as part of, speech or speeches that political leaders and their supporters give, or actual intimidatory behavior by their so-called, party security forces. And I think that if the story that you are following and we are talking about is true and people are arrested, then I think it's a dramatic escalation of violence in our politics, which is totally unacceptable.
Okay. Beyond the security agencies stepping in to deal with this matter, what else should we be doing as we're drawing closer and closer to the elections and the possibilities of people showing their anger in one form or another against, be it a politician or a government official?
Well, showing anger for what? There are processes and institutions that can deal with that frustration and anger. But I think those who have done this, and all those whose behavior threaten others, must be arrested and the rigors of the law applied to them. You see, because if we don't deter people from flouting the rules, and we haven't deterred people from flouting the rules by using the law for a very long time. Okay? So people threaten to do things. Some of these politically aligned security groups arm themselves. They threaten people. They disrupt rallies. They use language that is intimidating and threatening. So I think truly it's up to the Inspector General of Police and his men and women to start arresting these people and holding them before the law. Because if this attack is perceived to be politically tinged, then we'll see other political party convoys being attacked. And that will lead to an escalation of unnecessary violence and destruction of property and threats to life. And the only way to stop it is to ensure that those who have done this are identified, arrested, and brought before the law.
Well, the Director of Public Affairs at the Ghana Police Service, Superintendent Sylvester Arthur, said the deployment of police personnel for flag bearers will actually take place from tomorrow.
Has put measures in place to provide personal security details for the flag bearers and their running mates. As we speak, the police has already finished providing some orientation for the selected officers who are earmarked to do the protection. The IGP has indicated that with effect from 1st July, the police is going to start assigning the security details to their principals. So as we speak, I can also confirm that a number of the political parties have indicated their acceptance to take advantage of the facility. And one political party, I am told, has also even gone one step ahead to pinpoint some officers to be included in their security details.
So for each of the flag bearers, how many men are you giving to them for this arrangement?
We are considering giving 4 each to the flag bearers and 2 each to the running mates.
Will that be enough, considering the kind of potential things that can happen in any election year, especially for the MPP and the NDC flag bearers?
Yeah, for now we think that should be enough. If in case of any situation, we are amenable to some changes. But for now, we think that the 4-2 permutation should be able to do the kind of trick that we want to do. Bearing in mind that in the course of the campaigns and the rallies and other things, we still have the police coming over to provide protection generally. That is why when you are holding such a special event, you are enjoined to notify the police at least 5 days clear before the event, so that we can put some security arrangement in place for you. For the 4 and the 2 permutation for the flag bearers and their running mates respectively, it is just for their personal security concerns.
Okay, now, especially for the president, I need to ask, Mr. Arthur, will there be a second layer? You say 4 men and 2 for the vice, but for the president, he's already the commander-in-chief. Will that mean an extra layer of protection for him?
Well, this is the general arrangement we have put in place. If he demands that we give them the 4-2, we are going to go ahead. If he tells us that, I have enough security details already, and so I don't need any, we shall also accede to that.
So that's it for Arthur speaking to us yesterday here on the program on this security arrangements they've done for flag bearers ahead of the elections. We will subject this issue a bit more after this short break and look at how security for these flag bearers is important as we head for this election and the politics of security in the country today. Details after the break. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. And just before the break, we were talking about security for flag bearers ahead of the elections. Ahead of our political desk, Evans Messer joins me in the studio for some quick discussion on how important it is and why we should be paying critical attention to it as we look ahead to the 2016 elections. Evans, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Francis.
First of all, we've heard from Sefa Satha saying that they are making provision for 4 security officers for the flag bearers and 2 for their running mates. With your experience in covering elections, would that be a fair number to give?
Of course it is. I mean, the last elections in 2012, they gave protection for the candidates. Much wasn't done for the vice presidential candidates. So clearly, 4 years on, they've increased the number, first of all, for the presidential candidates. And then secondly, there is protection for the vice presidential candidates. That is more than fair. In total, you have 6 officers of the state guarding these individuals. I think that's pretty fair. Again, the question to ask is, we have 25 political parties formally confirmed by the Electoral Commission this year. Possibly, all of them will be picking forms, all of them possibly will go through in terms of registration to be properly on the ballot for November 7th or December 7th, whichever it is. Are we going to have all these presidential candidates, if we so do have eventually, and their vice presidential candidates protected? That could be a burden for the security agencies, because you see, you're talking about the 4 and the 2 making 6, but that comes with logistics. You know, it comes with additional responsibility that the police will have to take, and I guess there's a question we need to ask: will just because you form a political party, do you deserve the protection you are talking about? Even if
we're to stick with the number 25, that will mean quick maths will point to about 150 police officers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You know, for these men.
That's a lot.
And for the risk factors involved in covering elections and security, Dr. Enin points to this incidence of flag bearers being attacked or their teams being attacked being a sign of danger ahead, that it could escalate into violence in these elections. Are we seeing truly a rising political temperature ahead of this election? I mean, honestly, compared to other elections, I think this year has been pretty quiet, honestly. We are in June. Tomorrow we're beginning July. We're very close to the elections. If it's November 7th, we are talking about 4 months. If you check the EC's website, they're talking about 20 weeks. Normally this time, you see a lot of political activity, and the silly season would have been in full swing. We've seen bits and pieces of it, but it hasn't been full tilt yet. And really, if you look at the extent of, I guess, what he would call political violence since January to date, well, in the past, what you have is people like institutions like YAW releasing their early warning reports that gives a certain sense of what is happening across the country. We've not had that, but simply working with the media space. We haven't had too many of such cases of, I guess, people being, except for last year when the NPP had their own internal, one person died, many people were injured, etc. This year, the election year proper, we've seen a certain, I guess, a bit more or less, I guess, aggression, but it still exists. In the Ashanti region, we've talked about what happened yesterday. In fact, even that, there are conflicting reports about what exactly happened. So really, I don't think we are there yet to the point where people could say that the temperature, it will get a bit more ratchet up when we get close to November 7th. But for now, based on what we've seen in the last 6 months or so, we are not there yet. We are not at the point where you can say that we are reaching the tipping point. But some point to the kind of utterances you see the political party representatives make on the radio, heightening tensions in terms of infuriating or motivating their supporters to go out and do things like we've seen in the past. Are we seeing, again, in that regard, a bit more than we used to? No, I don't think so too. Because if you watch the West Africa, the agency, not one reports, I'm talking about the Suleiman Ibrahim's institution, Media Foundation for West Africa. They do the monitoring of abusive language on radio. If you compare the figures that they are getting this year to what they got in 2012, we could see that the sheer numbers of
the tabulation of issues relating to abusive language has gone down a bit. It's still there. It is still an issue. But I recall in 2012, before that, we had a huge conversation about hate speech, inciting messages, tribalistic comments. This year, we haven't had much of these instances, except for a few that we've reported. For example, the one that we all condemned in the Water region where Jifati made those comments. Others have come up, but it hasn't been as prominent as it used to be in the past. So if you look at it overall, some progress has been made. Admittedly, a lot more needs to be done, but again, comparatively, and if you watch the political space, in fact, media watchers, political watchers are complaining that not complaining, but noting that the political seizing itself proper seem not to have kicked in full gear.
Is that not also because, and someone was making this point to me yesterday, is that not also because the clarity, the timetable that we used to see in 2012 and 2008 for a proper election calendar has not really been rolled out this year? You talk of nominations that candidates will have to go pick up from the Electoral Commission, the exhibition process, the filing and all of that for campaign proper to swing. Has not happened.
I think what is accounting for what we're having is the huge uncertainty surrounding the Electoral Commission and the process going forward. And there's several moving parts in there. The first moving part is the uncertainty surrounding when we are going to hold elections this year. Nobody knows. Although the process has begun in Parliament, we know it takes a long time. It's being sent to the Council of State. They need to, sort of opine on, and then it go back to Parliament. There's a long process. That's one uncertainty. Secondly, what are we going to do with the voters' register? Again, it's a moving part that nobody has fixed yet. It's still in the Supreme Court. We don't know what's happening with that, and that could have implications again for the elections. We don't know when, and we are running out of time. In fact. The third moving part, and it relates to the voters register conversation that we are having, is when are you going to exhibit the voters register for people to go and check? Because again, we've registered, and EC cannot put a finger on the date because
a date was announced recently, but 18 July to 5th August.
There is an uncertainty surrounding that because once the Supreme Court rules right now on the credibility of the register and says, for example, and which is a likelihood based on the list that we're talking about, the NHIS cards. It necessarily must include those that delete from, assuming that's what happened, must find a way of re-registering these people.
Even before we talk exhibition.
Exactly. So if you're opening the register again, you're asking people to come and register again because the names have been taken up because they registered with NHIS cards. After that process, you then need to do another exhibition. So although they announce a date and they do an exhibition, you necessarily must wait for the Supreme Court outcome to determine if you will have to wait for others to register. Then you do one exhibition opening. That is another moving part. It's an uncertainty in there that again fueling, and everybody's holding back because of all these uncertainties that are playing out at the same time. Another factor again that is playing into this, and people are noticing, but it's a part of this whole uncertainty surrounding this year's elections. We have a new EC chair since 1992. For the very first time, since 1992, we have another EC chair who has been in there barely a year. People are waiting, a bit uncertain about how will she handle this year's elections. Again, that is an uncertain factor. If you look at all these things I've mentioned, it's part of the reason both political parties, the main ones, are all hedging.
And by that you mean MPP and DC?
NDC, all hedging. I mean, stay on the sidelines. And again, it comes back to the conversation we had about manifestos. All the parties are saying, we're not going to release our manifestos now because they know that all these factors that I've mentioned haven't been settled. You don't want to play your hand now because if you play your hand now, your opponents would have seen what you're going to do and they can counter because that's what happened to the MPP in the 2012 elections. And so all these factors are making this year's elections a bit more uncertain. But there's a danger for me, I notice. What will then happen is, assuming all these factors are dealt with, in the last month or two to the elections proper, Pandora's box will open. There'll be mad rush to complete all these things I've said. The political parties then will cram so much into so little time. And that could be where we all need to be watching.
And with that part you bring in, I need to ask, for the first-time voter, or for the loyal voters who voted since, what, 2008 up until now, looking at all of these things unfold in the past, what, 4 to 5 months with the electoral calendar, is it enough time for them to properly assess and take a critical decision on who they vote for in this year's election, especially for presidential and parliamentary?
Look, they are voting pattern over the last so many years have shown that there's a core number of people who will vote for MDC and PP no matter what. Yeah. That 5 million, it's almost done deal. I mean, the in-betweens, the 4 million, in between that sometimes swings the vote is what everybody's going to fight for. And that again will be shared between the other smaller political parties. And so because we have that huge chunk of people already decided what they want to do, there's a tiny minority there that again decides elections. And so that's where your question really is. For those people, with all the uncertainty now, it will be very difficult for you to make a decision. But again, they are also looking at current circumstances and judging. They might have in their subconscious somebody in mind they want to vote for. But in terms of making a concrete decision as to who they will actually vote for, and these are the people you call the middle class. Yeah. That kind of people, those that fall in that bracket, make decisions based on real facts that they can verify, that things that they have experienced. There's a very interesting analogy here. When the UK was doing they were having their out vote on the Brexit referendum. Yeah. In fact, a lot happened the day of the elections. The campaigners who were asking UK to leave were absolutely certain they were going to lose. Absolutely certain. In fact, there's a story told of Boris Johnson in the tube asking a young guy on the train, has he heard of the vote yet? And he felt he was probably going to go home, wake up the next morning and hear that the citizens have voted to stay, only for them to wake up in the morning. So a lot happens during that period, and I'm suspecting that because of all the uncertainty, we haven't seen there's a small number of people, small number of electorates who still want to see what is in the manifesto, see who's stuck through the issues. For those people, they'll wait till they see all these things. And so there's a lot still to play for, and the parties know it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Evans, for this. But final point, and I know you may not have that business lens on, but tell me something. With how things are going, are businesses also being hedgy in their plans and their forecasting in years like this? Of
course. And I was going to mention that because of the business, they hate uncertainty. And if you speak to all the business leaders and our business folks from Joy Business, they tell you, they speak to these huge banks, corporate entities who not normally put money into, and even here at Multimedia, regular clients who advertise. Normally, they'll probably tell you, give you a budget for the whole year. This year, what we're hearing is a lot of them are giving you a budget for the first, second, and maybe the third quarter. The first 8 months. They are leaving the last 4 months open because of this. Nobody wants to put in a lot money and budget for it for the last quarter, and of course we shouldn't hope it will happen, but something comes up and then you lose your money. And so investors are hedging. They're waiting to see what will happen before they put in all their money, and that's one of the key things that we are noticing is going to happen this year, and the forecast is already showing that it's going to have a telling effect on our economy. Okay, so the 2016 elections, thank you, Evans, for your time, head of our political desk here at Joy News. And when it comes to elections, I've already told you, you have to settle for the best and not the less. And that's here on your election headquarters. But let's quickly touch on one other matter that has to do with the elections, because today the Supreme Court has sat on that matter of the EC bringing the list of individuals who registered in the previous registration exercise with the NHIS cards. The Supreme Court has reopened that hearing into the matter. We can get an update now from Raymond Akufo of Joy News. He covered that event for us today in court. Joins us now with details. Raymond, what happened today in court? It seems we've lost Raymond on the line, but the information we're receiving is that the plaintiffs got the opportunity to look through the documents that the EC presented yesterday. You remember that we gave you details that some number of jute bags were sent by the EC to the Supreme Court late yesterday evening. Today, the plaintiffs got the opportunity to scrutinize those documents. They had some issues with it, but the court has decided to
reopen this matter properly and deal with it on Tuesday after they've all apprised themselves with the documents in question, and then we'll get to see in which direction we're heading on this matter. Raymond will join us online in just a moment to give us those details and get to also understand what the direction of these issues today at the Supreme Court will mean for the bigger picture of the elections this year in either November or December. That matter is also being dealt with in Parliament. Raymond joins me now on the line. Raymond, I was asking for you to give us the details of what transpired in court today.
It was very discussion that everybody, but immediately the Electoral Commission had made a point that they had submitted preliminary objections, that they only got the list a few minutes before the court had sitting, so they needed to peruse that particular list because there are some stuff don't check on this matter. And the court was not so accommodating of this particular claim because they wanted and make a ruling or a clarification, as they call it, Tuesday. But they gave the NPP 1 hour. When the plaintiff stepped out, they quickly went to resolve their problems, looked through the papers, and came back to say that there are some plenary issues they need to raise. First and foremost, some of the names do not have NHIS numbers attached to it. So it's unclear whether they who register with the National Health Insurance card or something else. Again, others also do have the numbers, but which numbers? And it's also misleading. The lawyer for the plaintiff, Frank Davis, all up by saying that the very list the EC has produced, which sums around some 67,000, looks fictitious, to say the least. He proceeded to say that they needed more time to peruse it and present their findings to the court. Court interrogated their issues. Lawyer Tadiasori then came in to say that he admits that there are some problems with the list. Because some registration officers made a mistake with the NHIS, but indicated that they used the NHIS card to register. That's the more reason why those ones appear that way. The court was not so enthused by this particular line of argument, so proceeded to say that if the NPP knew some people, if the plaintiffs in this particular case knew some people, they should pinpoint them and add them to the list so that the EC can deal with it once and for all. But Frank Davis said that the EC brought their list, they should be able to defend their list to the court at all points in time. Then the court said, we'll wait. Come on Monday with all the issues you have. We would include all of your issues when we are giving the clarification earlier directives to the EC.
From Frank Davis now, you spoke to him earlier.
Yes, I spoke to Frank Davis just after this particular session, but he was not ready to say much because he said they needed to go straight into looking out for more of the problems with this particular list that the EC presented. But other members of his team, which included today K.T. Hammond, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Adansia Sokwa, who is an MPP Member of Parliament, he was in court, he was sitting with the plaintiff, and he said that the plaintiff is interested in case. So that's the reason why he was in that particular court. And he was overwhelmed by the kind of deception, in his own words, the EC put up in the court today. We can take a listen to him.
Raymond, we will shortly hear from the Member of Parliament, K.T. Hammond, who was also in court today. So tell me something, especially for, let's hear from K.T. Hammond now.
Indeed, a little bit more so than maybe most people. I'm standing as a member of parliament, and so obviously I have a little bit more interest in this matter. Of course, there are legal issues also involved, and we would all want to find out how ultimately this matter pans out. But I think your point is whether it is heading toward the right direction.
heard the Supreme Court judges said that the application had been made for a clarification of the original judgment, I think of what? Is it May this year? That's what they intend to do. But some very critical matters came up. I mean, if you were concentrating, you would have realized that what the Council for Abu Ramadan and Evans and Macron, the applicants, was suggesting was this, that, well, there's a conundrum here, there's a difficulty here. The point in time, the Electoral Commission seems to have admitted in this court that majority of the people on the electoral register, and the electoral register I think has about 14 point something million. And so if you say majority of them, we're talking about more than 7 million people on the register appear to have registered using the NHI card.
Yeah.
Now, Supreme Court in the ruling that they gave the last time asked them to bring to this court today exactly the list, the number of people who so registered. They come in with a paltry sum of about 68,000 against the backdrop of what they had indicated originally to be about 7 point something million. That's number one. That's the first difficulty. Then perusing that 68,000 within the 1 hour that was given by the court, it is realized that in certain districts, a lot of names that appear on the list that has been presented to the Supreme Court, a lot of them do not come with an indication whether they registered via the NHI card or what. It's just blank, just the name and then blank. The point then is this. What's happening here, because there are those with a number and then there are those with no number. And then the question
is the explanation
no, but we haven't even gotten to the explanation
because
yet.
they actually give an explanation.
But they didn't. Now, before we go to the explanation, there's something else quite critical. The council also alluded to two specific documents, the Form 1A and then the Form 1C. And they're saying that the information on the C is what is scanned, on the A is what is scanned onto the C. And so the C then forms part of the database. What he's saying is this, as to whether or not a particular individual registered with what card, NHS card, or whatever form of identification that was used, it's not indicated originally on the Form 1A. If it is not on the Form 1A, you could not possibly get it onto the Form 1C. The bottom line then is that on what basis is the Electoral Commissioner compiling the list which has now been presented to the court? So Council made bold and said that this list is more than meets the eye. It might be a little bit more to it. I think the word was that. What was the word that was borrowed? The Chief Justice supplied the word, isn't it? The missing link that was spurious, and Council made bold and accepted that it was not just simply the spurious. It may be bogus, it may be fictitious, it may be conjured, it may be everything. That is the difficulty.
But the only problem here is that the explanation given. Do you think it's
what was the explanation? What was the explanation?
Omission from the point of registration.
You see, there have been many omissions. There have been many omissions. Omissions from there. Well, they didn't omit anything about me. But there have been omissions from there, omissions from there. If we are not careful, there will be omissions in the results of the election.
Is that rejecting the explanation they gave?
It didn't sound as tangible. Somebody supplied a very modest argument from the back here. It didn't sound convincing. I'm not sure the court was convinced. But anyway, the court is now asked counsel to go and put together. You could detect the difficulty that they found themselves in. To go and prepare the argument, because obviously 1 hour to go through the list of 67,000. I mean, I think was quite enough. 67 or 68 or 100,000. It's not much at all. Contrast that against the majority, which is about 7-something million, which they had indicated.
They made proud, because this argument was actually made by the Attorney General during the main case.
But that's the point. That's the point. That's the admission by the Attorney General on behalf of the Electoral Commission that over 7 million people on the register have applied or have registered using the NHI card. And for that reason, if there is any attempt to take them out of the list, a lot of them will be disenfranchised. Whether that was used to disturb the equilibrium or to frighten the Supreme Court, nobody knows. They are now being held to it. The Supreme Court is asking them, bring the list. the majority that you're talking about, 7 million, bring the list. They present a list of 68, 65, whatever thousand. I mean, what sense does it make? That's the difficulty we have now.
The last point is that the Chief Justice made a very much important so to say that you have a shared responsibility to equally help.
We heard that. We heard that.
Yes.
Do you know what I use to register?
I don't know.
Do I know what you use to register?
But the lawyers were saying they knew some people.
No, you weren't listening. The lawyer didn't say that. You know, it's a difficulty. Let's abide by the ruling of what they just indicated.
You're actually rejecting the shared responsibility part.
Well, because I do not know. Listen, young man, I don't know what you see, you are rejecting it if I take you on your logic, because you don't know what I use. Yeah. I don't know what you use. So why do you say I'm rejecting? You also rejected it by a similar token, isn't it? You know, but there's a difficulty. The court said that go and prepare your argument, submit that by Monday, 11 o'clock. Did they agree on the 11 o'clock or the 9 o'clock? Okay, no, submit that by 11 o'clock, and then we'll see how it goes. It's a difficulty.
The MPP is in support of this case.
The whole Ghana is in support of this case.
Is the MPP as a party in support of this case?
And the whole of Ghana is in support of this case. I mean, tell me, let's be serious. Of course I'm a front bench. Let's be serious. Aren't you interested in making sure that we have a very credible register for the next election?
The more reason why I'm here.
Absolutely. That's why everybody is watching and listening.
Thank you so much, Honorable.
You're welcome.
Right, so that's Katie Hammond, who was in court today, sharing his thoughts with us on what he made of today's proceedings and his understanding of what the Supreme Court judges said in the Supreme Court today. We can get more details from Raymond. Raymond, you also spoke to Mr. Abu Ramadan, one of the plaintiffs in this case. What did he have to say as his reaction to today's proceedings?
Because we've been given an opportunity to come back on Monday to file our objections that we have against whatever has been filed. So Monday we'll be back in court to raise issues that we have with the papers they filed.
But you seem to have, in the first place, had some form of knowledge of what's going to be filed, because actually you started pointing out some of the things.
But they were pointed out in open court.
You actually had people in those areas already.
They were pointed out in open court, and truly, it's not just me saying it. Everybody agrees with me that if you say majority, if you say millions, and you come to court and you give us less than 100,000, you've not done justice to the instructions.
Figure they gave you?
The exact figure who gave us?
The Electoral Commission gave.
Sorry, the Commission didn't mention figures, but in this suit they didn't write 1 to 1,005.
Yeah.
But they wrote the numbers according to districts: 1, 55, 200. So we are here to sit down and compile those numbers and know whether how many people they really found. As I stand here, I can't tell you, but I know it's not up to 60,000. Looking at it,
60,000.
It's not. It's not. And that's less than 7% of the total number of voters on the voters register.
You were expecting more than half of the.
I was expecting in excess of 7 million.
This was because of what the attorney.
When you say majority and you say millions, majority is 7 plus 1.
Could it have been
of the total?
It was just for the arguments to make the point earlier on.
That will be misleading the court. That amounts to perjury, if I'm not mistaken. Right. Because you under oath, you swore an affidavit and you deliberately lied to mislead the court. That's serious.
There's one point, though, that was not very much addressed by your client, your lawyer. In this particular case, the Supreme Court Justice, the Chief Justice, said it's a shared responsibility. She was clear in her mind that if you had people who had registered...
We agreed it's shared responsibility.
So are you willing to help out?
But how do I go and ask Electoral Commission to delete names of persons when the Commission is the sole custodian of the primary document? How do I?
So you think you can play any role in that?
I don't play a role. The only role I play is to look at the list they have presented and tell them that, listen, I was looking out to see A, B, C, D, E, F names in it, but the names have not come in. But as to really, whether those names use self-insurance or not, is for those people to come and also say we didn't or we did.
So Monday, exactly what are you presenting?
When we present it, you see.
So that's Abu Ramadan there speaking to Raymond Dakwa, explaining that on Monday they have some documents that they would want to show the courts. We'll see how that plays out in the coming days. So certainly this matter of the electoral roll, we are not done yet. We're yet to get finality on the matter from the Supreme Court. We'll be back on Monday with that update for you from the Supreme Court. At this point, we'll pause for a break. When we'll come back, there's a lot to talk about here on the program. Stay with us. You're welcome back to the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. And just before the break, we were talking earlier about that story from the Ashanti region about 2 suspected armed robbers who've been gunned down by the police. We can get an update now from Nuruddin Mohammed, our regional correspondent. Nuruddin, what more do we know about this case?
Well, Francis, these suspected armed robbers are alleged to have masterminded the killing of a Greek officer in the region, and so police had an intelligence, and they were arrested. And detained. So this morning, they actually took them to places where they've hidden some ammunition and to also trace their accomplices. So when they got there, they were able to retrieve some of the weapons, and they were also trying to trace the accomplices. And all of a sudden, according to the police, they came under heavy gunshot attack. And so the 2 suspects, upon realizing the police would actually shift the attention to where the gunshots were coming from, tried to run away, and so they were shot and killed instantly. So that was what happened this morning. So according to the police, the 2 suspects, Kwekwe and Michael Ajimai, were arrested as separate operation at Achuma, Makro, and Abuakwa by the police officers in the region.
Nuruddin, for those who suffered at the hands of these armed robbers, do we know how they are doing? I can imagine they are traumatized.
Come again, Francis?
I'm asking about those who the armed robbers terrorized before they met the police. How are they doing?
Francis, I hardly hear you.
I'm asking about the victims of these armed robbers, how they are faring now. Did any of them sustain any injuries? Nuruddin, can you hear me?
The line is too bad. Francis?
Can you hear me now, Nuruddin?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I was asking about the victims who suffered at the hands of these armed robbers. How are they faring now?
Well, we have not had the opportunity to speak with them or to even get to their places and find out how we are doing. At the time the police held a press conference, there were not people, I mean, it wasn't known to the general public that these suspected armed robbers were killed. I'm sure that in the next few days, we'll try and speak to these victims and find out how the news has come to them and how they feel about it. But I must also add that the leader of the group who masterminded the killing of the Greek officer, Isaac Jallo Ba, has also been declared wanted by the police. The police is appealing to the general public to help with information that will lead to the arrest of this suspected robber.
All right. Thank you, Mohammed Nuruddin, for that. That'd be quite a sad story to report. Even in view of the men who've done this, in fact, we could have gotten some more closure and more leads in getting who was the brains behind this very sad armed robbery attack in some parts of Kumasi. The news is that 2 suspected armed robbers have been gunned down by the police in some shootouts today in the early hours of this morning. We brought you those details here on the show. Moving on to some other news this afternoon. Ghana has ratified a lot of international protocols in her bid to join the global fight against climate change. It has, however, emerged that a climate public expenditure and institutional review exercise undertaken by the Finance Ministry in 2015 expected to provide the gateway to climate change sensitivity and awareness was done by the ministry without the involvement of the Environment, Science and Technology Ministry. Now, this, which has the expertise you will imagine in climate change issues, that was disclosed by the development consultant with Care International, Mr. Baba Twahiru, on the fringes of a workshop organized on an analysis of the 2016 budget to assess its climate sensitivity in relation to the 2014 and 2015 budgets as basis to influence the climate sensitivity of future budgets.
I think that it was in 2015. And, you know, in the 2015 budget, MESTI, that is Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, had made an indication that government was to conduct a CPEIR exercise, and that was to pave the way for climate-sensitive budgeting in Ghana. But all of a sudden, in that same year, the Ministry of Finance undertook that exercise in collaboration with ODI and ISE of the University of Ghana. And I was expecting that the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation will have been involved, because it is the main ministry that is in charge of climate change. I think it has the mandate to coordinate climate change activities in Ghana. So if it took the lead to announce in the budget that the government was to conduct a CPEIR exercise, I mean, the expectation is that if Minister of Finance is taking the lead, it should have involved the Minister of Environment, because they have the expertise to help. Yeah, if you look at the budgetary allocations to the ministries, you have climate change initiatives. Funds have been proposed to be allocated to such ministries. And so what is expected is that such ministries will at least mention climate change. Because if you mention climate change, there are a number of advantages to that. You are informing Ghanaians that something is being done to address climate change.
Right then, in other news this afternoon, the president of the Ghana Dental Association, GDA, Dr. Nana Asante, has called on government to review the dentistry tariff on the National Health Insurance Scheme. He said government over the years has paid little or no attention to dentistry. Dr. Nana Asante was speaking at the 25th anniversary and annual general meeting of the Ghana Dental Association, and he's further called on government to reduce taxes on dentistry equipment that are imported into the country.
When we talk of dentistry, we are also looking at trauma and road traffic accidents and all those things. Now, at the moment, we have one machine which is able to take X-ray pictures for the face and the head. Kolebu has one and the private clinic has one. Now, to import that machine, the cost of the machine alone is about 50,000 euros. 50,000 euros, and if you slap a 45% tax or tariff on it, then it becomes impossible for even the government itself to buy the machine. Not to talk of the private practitioner who is also trying to help. You know, to develop an X-ray film, you need photography, you need solutions to develop it. All these things are taxed at 45%. So we are pleading with government to remove the taxes on some of these important health inputs and equipment so that we can improve the services for our people. At the moment, we have about, 77 or 80 something districts. Only 30 to 40 of them have any form of dental clinic within the districts. And the rest of the country is deprived. So we're pleading with government that they have to come to our aid, increase the tariffs for us so that there will be more money coming into dentistry, and in the process improve the quality of the work that we do and the equipment that we use. If you go and remove a tooth at the NHIS or fail a tooth, I think it's about 30 cedis or 25 cedis or something like that. That is not even the cost of the local anesthetic or the injection that they will inject you with before they remove the teeth. It is woeful compared to the rest of the world. But we know we are a poor country and we are a developing country. We are striving to achieve middle income status. And we understand. But there must be concerted and serious effort to try and increase these tariffs so that dentistry can progress, so that oral health can improve.
Right then, let's see what government does about that call by the Ghana Dentistry Association today. Well, in some good news to report, government has withdrawn the controversial interception of postal packets and telecommunications bill, popularly known as the spy bill. This comes months after Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee received memoranda from the public on the spy bill and had been scrutinizing it. We are yet to understand what has informed that decision. But earlier, the Deputy Interior Minister told Parliament that considering the kind of debates that have gone on about this bill, they have decided to withdraw it and work on that bill so we can get something much more credible in the coming days. We can now speak to Samson Ladia. He's a private legal practitioner, one of the many who were clamoring for this bill not to be passed in the form in which it is now. He joins us now on the line for more on the story. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Ainini. Seems the line has dropped. We will get you some more updates on that particular story in just a moment. But you're still watching the Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. After the break, we'll bring you sports here on the program. Stay with us.